What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thank you for checking out this episode of the Keep Climbing podcast. We're kind of taking another little break from the pitch arsenal segments that I've been doing, and we're going to talk about command today. We're going to talk about developing command, what that kind of looks like, maybe over the whole trajectory, all different kind of age groups. Command, obviously, extremely important. We talk a lot about, especially in the facility, we talk a lot about stuff, performance metrics, and everything. And obviously the way that we put that all together, for getting outs in the game, comes into command. And there's so much stuff these days, that gets thrown around that people are either, like to velocity. And then you got this whole like velocity group saying like, oh, don't worry about commanding. You're not getting any more looks because you throw slow and command the ball really well. My personal take, and especially at Premier, it's all about getting outs. It's all about getting outs. And if we can't put those two things together, neither one of them are good without the other. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you got a batter standing in the box. The batters certainly don't like hitting against higher velocity than nasty pitches. But also they'll sit there and tell you that if all you got's a heater and you're throwing it down the middle, like they're going to get to you eventually, So being able to change speeds, being able to locate, all of those things kind of, put it all together for us. And I've got a really special guest to me, special guest to the baseball world today, Rob Zastryzny. Rob Z and I crossed paths at Mizzou. Our lockers were right next to each other. We were catch partners. We're great friends. Rob spent this past year with the Brewers. He's had an incredible baseball journey. Maybe Rob, give us a little bit of your baseball background.
Yeah, like you hit it on the head. We went to Missouri together, been friends ever since, but my baseball journey was drafted relatively high. Kind of felt like I was going to be playing for a long time until you get to the big leagues and you realize how hard it is to be there. And I kind of got kicked down a little bit, struggled for a couple years, bounced around the minors after that, and uh, shortly after, two full seasons in the minors, I was like, okay, something's got to change if I'm ever going to get back to the big leagues. So I jumped into pitch design, movement profiles, how to tunnel a little bit better, and like you said, the start is command was the big thing for me because you can do anything in the world, create any sort of movement profile, and if you can't put it where you want to put it, it just doesn't work. So um, I've been with the Brewers for the last 2 years. I got traded back to Milwaukee this year in May, and just been on a really fun team to play for, and I've really enjoyed my time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, he hit the nail on the head there, like kind of some of the thoughts I had typed out here, why this topic matters. This topic matters because it is the absolute bedrock for like consistency, longevity, and ultimately like effectiveness, against the hitter. It comes in all like different ways too, to be honest with you. Command for a guy that throws 101 looks totally different than what it needs to look like for a guy that throws 91 or at high school levels throwing mid 80s or whatever have you. If you've got more elite velocity, the fact of the matter is you have more room for error with command. And truthfully, especially from a coaching standpoint, especially from data analytics standpoint, that it's much easier to quantify and train stuff than it is command. I tell people this all the time. I say, I can tell within 6 pitches. If I see your fastball, I can tell in 6 pitches, I can tell you if you got a good fastball or not. And I need like 600, maybe even 6,000 pitches to tell you if you got good command. And truthfully, like that's the sample sizes that we're talking about. And I think that's much harder to quantify, especially when you're in the front office. It's much harder to put your stamp of approval on somebody when that type of stuff is needed. And the way we've evaluated players has changed so much. It's much easier. It's much more black and white, much easier to look at a fastball profile, movement profile, velocity readings, and try to say, predict, project that guy's going to have success in the big leagues because that analogy I just gave you. Like, I can tell you in 6 pitches if it's good or not. It's going to be really hard for that guy to hit, whether you throw it down the middle, 5 times in a row to him or you're changing speeds and locating. And ultimately what Rob said, is totally true, because the reality is if you were that guy, you would know already, right? Everybody listening to this, if you or your kid or the players on your team was that, you'd know, okay? And most of the world is not, so then the kind of conversation turns into like, okay, well, even if you do throw that hard, really to produce the longevity that you want, you have to continue to grow and develop, like Rob's saying, like in the big leagues, whether you're a guy with elite velocity like that or not, that those guys ultimately can just catch up to that. It's obviously harder, but they can adjust to that and adapt to that, especially if you're, a one pitch wonder, as I like to say. But you have to evolve. Like establishing good command with those pitches ultimately is what allows you to keep kind of progressing through levels, going through stages of your career and whatnot. I was actually this past weekend, I was at the Illinois high school baseball coaches convention, and we were up there presenting on, how the comprehensive assessment approach impacts pitching development. If you've watched any of my previous episodes, and just to give some quick context, to us, to me, it affects everything. It affects every kind of coaching suggestion you can give, right? Like that's how we individualize it. That's how we meet players where they're at, ultimately by getting as much context about the player and what they need to do to produce success, as possible. But during a hot stove panel that I was a part of, and this is such a common question, reoccurring question, which is why I wanted to tackle it in our episode today. Is, well, Brett, what do you guys do to help, like, with command, or how do pitchers, help develop command? How can I help my players? These were coming from Illinois high school baseball coaches. How do I help my players develop command? And so we're going to take some time, kind of talk about that today. Obviously, when we say command versus stuff, I wanted to start there, kind of lay the foundation. Command is your ability to locate the baseball where you intend to throw it, right? And it's kind of gone on beyond this. We've always had stats and statistics that pitching coaches have tracked, for us as the players, of strike percentages, and really, like, this is kind of taking it a step further. Basically, did you throw the ball where you were trying to throw it, and can you do that more often than not? And that's ultimately what command is. Your stuff is going to be more of like the velocity, movement profiles, pitch design, sessions that Rob was talking about earlier. I've talked a little bit about why command even impacts you if you throw harder, if you have more elite, velocity and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like location and changing of speeds as a pitcher that, help you face hitters multiple times, help you turn the lineup over a couple of times. Rob can certainly attest to this, that there's players that he's probably been facing in the major leagues for a while, guys that he's faced in the major leagues that he's faced a ton throughout the minor leagues. And even if they're not, holy smokes, man, there's so much data. There's so many scouting reports and stuff out there about you as a pitcher that hitters have never walked up to the plate, having never faced you before. Hitters have never walked up to the plate with more information on you than they have today. So, like, your ability even to adapt within the game, let alone from game to game, is super critical. So that's kind of where we're at. Rob, when you hear the word command, talk a little bit about, like, what that means to you. Maybe how that definition has changed throughout your career, because I certainly know, like, as I got older, I comprehended that maybe in, like, a totally different way. But talk a little bit about kind of where you're at with that, and how that's evolved for you.
Command to me, like when you were talking there, which is one of the reasons I like talking baseball with you, is you do a really good job of vocalizing and making me understand what you're trying to say. And it's like, it reminded me of college, because my junior year, I talk about this all the time. I was going through a lot of, like, draft stuff. I was going through all sorts of information. The Red Sox called me today. They want me to throw harder. And the Blue Jays called me, and they said that they're thinking of me at pick whatever. And there was so much, and you would just break it down to such a simple format. So I'm going to try to do that here with you. It's one of my favorite things in the world. Command to me is, there's levels of it, right? Like, can you throw the ball into the little box called the strike zone? And then there's command. It's, can you throw to the inner third, the outer third, the upper third, whatever. Command at the highest level, and then I'll work my way down. Actually, no, I'll start up. Command in high school to me was, can I throw my off speed over the plate? And can I land a breaking ball when I need to early? And can I finish above the zone or below the zone with a heater? But kind of in that generation, it was always away. It was never really up and down. It was mostly, can you throw away to a righty? And can you get enough in on a righty once to back him off the plate? So that was kind of like the baseline command for me, was, can I throw to two of my pitches to both sides of the plate? And then one of my pitches, can I throw it over the plate and below the zone? And so it was very simple, right? It's
Yep.
like
Love it.
curveball below the zone, land it once, fastball to both sides, and then a changeup was really just one side of the plate. Then I got to college and I started there was no analytics, but I started to realize my fastball played uh, up in the zone. So I didn't know what vert was. I didn't know what launch or release angle or anything like that was. My VAA, nothing. And so Matt Hobbs was like, why don't you try throwing up in the zone? And I kind of took off from there. And so then I had to learn how to throw up, away, in, and then he'd be like, hey, you can stun down and then throw up to finish. So then I had to start throwing the ball down. And once I had to start throwing to all four quadrants, I kind of struggled with it because my misses were so big. It'd be like trying to go up and throwing down middle, trying to
Mm-hmm.
go away and pull siding into the nitro zone or
Yep.
whatever it was. So command to me in college turned into, can I throw a pitch and my miss be effective?
Yep.
And it was like,
Love
if
it.
I'm going to throw a curveball down, I want my miss to be even more down on the plate. If I'm trying to land it behind the plate and I land it on the plate, that's okay. If I'm trying to land it on the plate and I land it in the center of the zone, that's not okay. Same
Mm-hmm.
with a fastball. If I'm trying to throw a fastball up and I miss down and in, that's an issue. If I try to throw it up and I throw it up and away, that's fine. If I throw it up and in, that's fine.
Sure.
And that was the next hybrid learning sequence for command was how can I make my misses a little bit better? And then when I got to pro ball, it turned into using, I have four pitches now. It's using three of them to both sides of the plate. But the main thing that I think about with command is how do you throw a pitch? And like, let's say there's a great example. There's Manny Machado. Down and in is absolutely no from a lefty. I can't throw him a fastball or a cutter down and in. And so it's like, what pitch can I throw and what location can I throw to where my miss is either going to be in off the plate or it's going to be up and in. And
Mm-hmm.
so command goes from, because I'm not going to hit every spot. I wish I could, and I know you do too when you played. I thought you had great command, but it's if a really good command pitcher hits the third of the zone 7 out of 10 times, right, or six out
Mm-hmm.
of ten times,
Mm-hmm.
where is your miss, and where are you okay with missing versus where are you going to get into trouble? And so that's what command is to me. Even now, it's like if I throw a backdoor cutter, am I going to miss down and away, or am I going to miss middle away? Because middle away is damage, down and away or down below the zone is swing and miss or take for a ball and it sets something else up.
Mm-hmm. Amen. No, I love that you said that. Honestly, I wanted to maybe spin into like, you touched briefly on some, pitch design things that you got into, in these later years of your career, and just like what stands out to me, like hearing you say that, and especially as it applies to like younger players, whether it's in high school or whether it's in pro ball, everybody's kind of enters this or is on this like, you know, trajectory or spectrum or whatever you want to call it, like at different levels. Um, but essentially, like that the pitch that you're throwing, you want to miss to the side. That's most effective. But like if I'm throwing a slider, I'm a right-handed pitcher. It's going to my glove side. Like I want to miss to my glove side for younger players, right? Because most of the time, like younger players, and this is kind of if you're listening to Rob's like command trajectory there of his own personal experience, like there's younger years there probably wasn't a whole lot of thought, time, and attention to as many arm side sliders, cutters, etc. It's all kind of shaping it,
Yep.
to the side that the pitch breaks to, the side of the plate that the pitch breaks to. And, so just talk about a little bit of that, maybe more from the perspective of where you're at right now, because I know you do a fantastic job of that to both sides of the plate with both of those pitches. That's ultimately how you become a major league pitcher. But in that like pitch design, kind of mindset, and you like reshaping some of those pitches of your arsenal. How was command, I guess, considered in that, and maybe how soon too? Because I know you've got to figure out the shape and the break of the pitch before I start to get like too cute with it and everything. You know what I mean? But where you feel like you're at with that right now, and maybe how that all kind of play out for you as you redesign your arsenal.
As I was redesigning the arsenal, it's like when you first learn a pitch, my pitching coordinator, who's now the pitching coach for the Reds, he said the first year you learn a pitch, you're renting it, right? Like you're essentially going to the store and you're renting something and you're using it whenever you need to, and then you give it back or whatever. The second full year that you throw a pitch, you own it. Like that is your pitch. You know what you're doing with it. And so I ran into a problem where it's like there's a really fine window. Let's say hypothetically, I'm throwing Kyle Schwarber a sweeper down and away, it's great. middle down is a 500-foot homer, and that's why he just signed a $150 million contract. And so the first year I learned a sweeper, there'd be situations where I wouldn't throw it. I'd be like, okay, like if I miss this by 3 or 4 inches, I'm in trouble. I didn't really own the pitch, and so to me, it takes time no matter what. And that's the frustrating part about command is training velo. Sometimes you can get these velo jumps in 2 months. Sometimes you get a cue in the middle of a bullpen, you add a mile an hour. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many little things that make you feel like you're on the right track. Whereas command is it just takes time. And it's so annoying to tell someone like, hey, this pitch, you're gonna start throwing it. You need to start throwing it to this spot. It's gonna take you 7 months of throwing it to really like own the pitch. And
Right.
I just think it's super important, and the Brewers do a great job. It's one of the things I love about them. They have like the Brewers pitch lab, and like everyone says that like that's the reason the Brewers are good. They get these guys that maybe haven't had a ton of success, and they teach them something. But really, what they do is they just set the bar super high, commanding that pitch. And so when they acquired me, they were like, "Hey, Rob, you throw your sweeper 40% of the time you miss up and into a lefty, and 60% of the time it's down exactly where you want it, which is good." They're like, how can we get exactly where you want it to 70? And how can we use the miss? And so all they did is they took the exact profile that I had. They didn't teach me a new grip. They didn't teach me a new starting point or anything. They just helped me refine it a little bit with a front side drill. I'll never forget. I put a little yellow band on my front side. And once I did that, I was actually able to get my sweeper down and away 10% more. And it took a little bit of work, but I mean that's all it is like you take a pitch and you learn to execute it at a higher level, and then you make your 30-40% miss effective for the next pitch or whatever. Like one example I can think of perfectly is there's a guy Deshaun Kiersey for the Twins.
Yeah.
And I threw him a down and away slider, he took first strike. I threw him a down and away heater, he took first strike, and then I missed a heater up, but I missed it up and in. And they called a back or like for him, it's a front hip sweeper, which I'd never thrown. And I was like, it's perfect, but I've never tried to miss that side of the plate.
Right.
And so it was like basically banking on missing a pitch. And I ended up throwing it. He backed off. I struck him out. It was great. But that's when I learned it's like the command of the pitch is the reason you get guys out. Like I didn't throw a better sweeper to strike him out. I actually threw a worse one. I just threw it in a better location.
Yeah.
And it's helped me so much where it's like my misses can be good and they can add to the next pitch. But in reality, it's just trying to stay like hyper consistent on executing it at the highest level and then using your misses.
Yeah. No, amen. I think that's probably the picture that needs to get painted the best for the younger pitcher listening to this is that it may not result like if you threw 10 pitches, right? If you threw 10 pitches and a younger high school kid threw 10 pitches and we're trying to execute, the slider down and away, whether they're left-handed or right-handed, like if you watch a major league guy do that, you watch somebody even just with elite command that would get dubbed as elite command, they're probably landing, 5, 6, 7 of them, right where they want to. Okay. In that box, for a strike to the third looks good, right? The difference in the levels of this is that those other, 3, 4, 5 misses that you'd have are going to be like slightly expanded misses relative to the zone where you were trying to go. Okay. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things to take away is that like those misses that you have that shoot way up arm side or that you pull yank that just never came out of your hand as a strike. That's kind of some of the achievement or like, upper level command, elite command, kind of categories everybody should be striving for. And that's some awesome wisdom. It's just like, well, what do the misses look like? Because at the end of the day, you can miss as long as you can use that miss. And that's kind of some of what, Rob's story is there is that like, pitch sequencing, we're going to get into this a little bit later. It's actually a topic I had on here to discuss specifically with you about this is that like, pitch sequencing is you can have a game plan. You can have a sequence. You can have an ideal sequence against these guys. You can call it. And then if you miss it or even just slightly miss it, what do you do with it? Right. And do you go back to what the original plan was and you try to, you miss the slider, up arm side and whatever pitch you were going to, sequence off of that up, expand it away, whatever with it? No, what you should be doing is actually what happens. You gotta kind of update your sequence after every pitch of what I'm trying to do, based off of what the hitter just saw. Especially like based off of, maybe at bats you've had against him in the past. But I love that. I love that you brought that up because that's certainly, a piece to that puzzle. So as we walk through this now, we're talking a little bit more about maybe how to develop command, right? How to develop command. To me, I break it down into two very obvious categories. Okay, first you got to off the mound, right? We're only on the mound maybe certain times of the year, once a week, certain times of the year, twice a week. If you're in the middle of the season, you're a reliever, maybe that's only 3 or 4 times a week. Like you always at least, even if you're throwing 3 or 4 times a week, um, out of the bullpen, like you have way more throws, you have way more time that you always spend off the mound than you do on the mound. So I wanted to start there. Okay, building command with purpose off the mound. What's going on in the training, in your reps, in any of your prep work, before you get to the actual competitive innings. And I think some of those things are extremely important. My perspective is totally unique. Even before I got involved at Premier Pitching, like Rob can attest, I had a very like physical minded, like I worked out hard. I was very like physically aware of everything that I was doing and motivated in that capacity. I was always like a smaller, skinnier, needed to develop physically. So that's probably where it stemmed from. My perspective, what I tell people all the time in developing command, especially for younger players or players that are maybe less physically mature, is that, man, holy cow, you're expecting to command the baseball, you know, and to do that, you need to be able to command your release point. And to do that, you need to be able to command your body. So how are you commanding your body? How are you, physically developing and teaching yourself, even when you don't even have a ball in your hand? And that's where it starts, your physical capacity and your, mobility and ranges of motion, your body control, your strength and stability. And ultimately, what I kind of shared with some of those high school coaches is like, man, like the root of where this all starts is your ability to command your body first and foremost. You want to command your body so you command your hands, so you command the baseball. So like if you jump in too quick trying to command the baseball without those other two things, you're probably swimming upstream for your entire baseball life and baseball career. But maybe Rob, talk a little bit about like your thoughts or feelings on how you try to physically prepare yourself. No baseball in your hand. How do you try to physically prepare yourself to command the baseball better?
I think you put it perfectly. I think me and you are from the same generation of baseball, right? Like we're a year apart in age or whatever it is, and early on it was like strength. Like me and you used to go at it in the weight room. Me less physically than you because you were stronger than I was, but like you set the bar very high, and it's like, okay, if I can squat 375 for 6, I'm going to throw hard. And like it was a very physical thing.
Yeah.
Every workout I do now, like I leave the weight room probably 3 days a week of the 5 that I go, and I feel like I didn't really like challenge my body a ton. Like I'm not physically like not able to walk upstairs or whatever it is. And
That's how we used to
it's just
deem
the
if it
way
was a
base
good workout or not, right? Could I walk out of
yeah,
here
like
properly or not? Yeah.
exactly. It's like, can I get to the locker room and change and get home? I don't know if I can. But now it's like 2 days a week I'll get after it. Like today was a get after a day, and I walked out, I had a little wobbly legs. I was sitting in the car and I got a little leg cramp. Like I really got after it. But the other 3 days it's all like single leg balance, how to engage your body correctly. So it's like I'll do an RDL. I can go grab 120 pounds and do an RDL, but I'm going to lose my hips. I'm going to lean to the right when I do it. I'm going to lose my core, whatever it is. So it's like you grab 65 pounds and you keep your hips tucked forward. You keep your core engaged. You keep your eyes on one small little target on the ground and you balance. Like I can feel when I'm doing everything. It's like this is my foot on the ground. If I'm doing an RDL and I start to lean this way, all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, okay, I'm putting too much weight on one side, stop the rep, get back, balance, get my
Yep.
big toe in the ground. And it's very much knowing your body, like you said. Like it's being very technical about what you're doing. You don't want to waste reps like trying to throw up extra weight. It's like if you're squatting and not doing it correctly, or deadlifting and pulling with your low back, like you're not doing any good.
Yeah.
But if you do these weights and you do the one leg balance, you do jumps and you try to hold steady and you fall forward, it's like you're not controlling your body. So everything I do now is about controlling my body. And it's like you said, before I pick up a baseball, before I pick up a plyo, any of those things, all it is a weight that I can control every movement I'm making. It's
Mm-hmm.
is my neck stable? Is my posture good?
Yep.
Are my hips tucked? Am I losing my front side on this lift, whatever it is? And I have these coaches, and it's great. Like I play in the MLB. I have the best trainers in the world. I have the best strength coaches in the world, and they got their eye on you at all times. So if I lose a little bit of balance, they walk over and they help me, or they lower the weight, they grab me a different weight.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you're doing it by yourself, you just got to take your ego out of it a little bit. It's like,
For sure.
I'm going to do jumps today, but instead of like trying to hit my head on the ceiling, I'm going to make sure that I'm jumping through the ball of my foot, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
like losing balance or trying to torque my body too much. I'm going to do a proper jump, and I'm going to land softly. And if I'm not landing softly, I'm going to lower it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of jumping 64 inches and trying to land it, I'm going to lower it to 48 so I can land correctly. And it's just really taking the ego out of it and working on what is my mindset for every lift? What are the three cues I need to have, and following those as closely as you can.
Yeah. I think ego is probably one of the biggest things. I certainly felt culprit to it too. Um, but there's a very obvious difference when you watch, what it looks like for some of our professionals to train in the weight room and some of our younger players versus some of our younger players. And the very obvious difference is that every single rep is still extremely intentional and extremely purposeful. I've actually had experiences where I've walked up and, seen a younger kid doing a workout and especially to the ones that are like working hard and I can easily kind of see from their perspective and I've been in their shoes kind of mentality. But I walk over to them, I see them doing kind of a subpar rep, and I go, "Hey, that's a ball." And they look at me and they're like, "What?" I go, "That rep was just a ball, And they're like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, you were all wobbly, like that's how you need to start like mentally seeing these reps, because when you go out and you do it on the mound, it's very obvious in your head that I like to throw strikes and I don't want to throw balls. Well, like that's the same thing you can be competing with in the weight room too. Like, is it good? Is it not? Is it a strike or is it a ball? And that's how I started viewing it as I got older. It's like, man, was that a strike or a ball? And I mean, you could do that in a mundane, tedious mobility kind of correctives thing. Was it a strike or was it a ball? And I think the more things that you can kind of view that as, all the way up to like your RDLs or your squats or whatever that Rob's saying, because I think it's very easy to go out there and do that when I'm playing catch or when I'm on the mound or when a hitter's in the box. They're like, "Oh, that was a bad pitch." Well, I think if you back that all the way up and you look at all of your reps that you're stacking, you're stacking reps on tops of reps for, looking at it through that lens, extremely beneficial for young players. And that's certainly, whether it's that actual thought or verbiage or not, like that's what you're articulating, like I'm trying to throw as many strikes as I can. I'm trying to have as many good reps as I can, ultimately knowing that all of them kind of compound, stack on top of each other, and produce the success that you're looking for on the field. And this is probably a conversation for a different day. But the focus and attention to detail that it takes to be an extremely good pitcher, that's not just something we flip on and off. That's not something that you turn on and turn off. Like I tell people all the time, like this rep or this throw in December 9th or whatever it is today, this rep right here in front of you has gotta mean just as much to you as the 2-2 pitch in the 7th inning you're gonna throw in June or whatever. It's got to mean just that same amount to you. And when you can mentally put yourself, in that type of mentality to take advantage of every single rep to you, that's when you start taking like really compounding strides. They stack on top of each other, and you start to build some success and some momentum that way. Excuse me. But basically, so that physical development, that's, to me, that's the root. I tell people all the time, like, you're pulling weeds or something, you want to get all the way down to it. Like, if you just pull the green off the top, you're not going to get to it. Like you got to get all the way down to the root. To me, at the command conversation, like that is the root of it. How intentional are your physical development, reps, and understanding that the ball, is a byproduct of what my hands do, and my hands a byproduct of what my body's doing. Well, how do I physically develop my body to be ready to deliver all those things, right? So building off of that, then, now we're in catch play, or your plyos, your catch play, your long toss, whatever have you, right? Now we're actually into throwing reps. And we obviously, I would say like that big picture of everything, if like the pitches are the smallest percentage of reps that we have during the week, then the catch play reps are probably the next biggest, and then the physical development, which I started there, is probably the most reps you get to do all week, right? Like, why don't we make sure that the most amount of reps for command, like, we take care of right now, going up to kind of the next tier of it, catch, play, long toss, and everything. That process has to be extremely intentional. And really, if you just take the same mentality we just described in your catch play, you're probably, already in a good mental spot to be, chasing down this command effort. But maybe, Rob, talk a little bit about like what catch play has looked like and evolved for you over the years, how important it is. Obviously, we played catch a ton. We were uber competitive with each other, from long toss distances to end of catch play games, to throwing of like your different pitches in the outfield. Talk a little bit about like how that's evolved for you, and what that looks like for you these days as you're chasing like elite command against the best hitters in the world.
Yeah, I think what you said about the physical part of it is perfect. So just a last little touch on that is I do so many reps from November 15th when I start working out to spring training when I really start to ramp up getting ready for season. And I do all sorts of physical reps, and I'm not even throwing off a mound yet. And so like why would I not be super with what I'm doing in the weight room? And I love what you said about it being a ball, because it's so true. It's like if you prepare improperly, like maybe it doesn't feel so deep right now, but then you get into that 2-2 count in June and you're like, man, I'm just not, it doesn't feel centered. And it's all because you didn't put in the work in September, October, November. And, but yeah, to move on to catch play is, if you haven't seen a big league catch play in your life, like if you're listening to this and you're like trying to gain, like go watch big leaguers play catch. And like they'll do it on like MLB Tonight, and it's great. Like we're sitting there eating lunch pregame, and they'll be like, Dylan Cease is throwing against Yamamoto today in LA, and they'll like cut to him playing catch before the game, getting locked in. Dude, the amount of focus you have while you're playing catch as a big leaguer, you're used to it and you're not really thinking about it. It's so high. Like I'm not having a conversation with the guy next to me. I don't even know who's playing catch next to me. I don't know if there's fans in the stands. I don't know what they're playing on the scoreboard. Anything. It's come set, take a deep breath, and release the pitch. And it's as much as you can make it game like as you can. Because like you said, you don't get to throw a bunch. Like if I could go throw the ball 350 times and still pitch in the game, that'd be awesome. And my command would probably be better. But then you end up on the IL, and then you're not helping your team at all. But you have such a finite amount of reps. And I feel like catch play in college between me and you, it was locked in because I was so competitive with you. Like you dot me in the chest, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to get him back in the chest. And then I'd throw like 3 or 4 in a row right at your glove. And I'd be like, I just sent a message to Brett, let him know that I'm locked in. You know what I mean? Like just,
Yeah.
and so it started there. And then I realized it's like, that was a huge reason why me and you did have success at the next level. Our stuff was good, and we worked hard, and we lifted weights, and we did everything. But in reality, man, we went after it every single minute we had a ball in our hand. I still remember one bullpen Hobbs put me against you, and I ended up beating you because I flipped in a changeup at like 70 miles an hour, and definitely cheated the system a little bit there. But that pen sticks out to me because it was an execution pen. We're essentially playing horse, right? It was like Brett executes a pitch, and then I have to execute that same pitch. And Brett's like, okay, fastball glove side, then I got to execute fastball glove side. And we were playing horse, and me and you were going at it. We are on like pitch 24, and I couldn't beat you. You couldn't beat me. So I cheated, but that was the
You knew I
level of
didn't have the
intent that we
changeup in the
had.
bag.
Yeah, I was like, the only way I can beat him is to execute one changeup. But um, that was just the one moment that stuck out to me, where it's like at a young age we were kind of doing it, but nowadays it's like we show up, it stretches at 3 o'clock. I get out there at 2:45. By the way, I've been doing prep work for an hour 15 already. Like I fueled my body at 1:30. I went and got my prep work. I hydrated. I did all the things that you have to do to be a good athlete. And then I go out 15 minutes early and I throw light plyos. But as I'm throwing the plyos, I make sure I have the right grip on the ball. I make sure I have a spot on the wall I'm throwing at. I have my feet dug into the dirt in the same spot every single time, and I'm trying to throw to that same part of the wall. It's very intentional with that. And then I go straight to my rosin bag, and I put the rosin on my wrist. I get the grip that I want. I don't want it too sticky. I don't want it too smooth, because sometimes the balls in catch play are a little like cue bally. They
Not ripped
little bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I get my grip the exact way I want it, and then we go through stretch. But stretch is super technical. It's like where you can mess around and like talk during stretch, but like everybody's locked into what they're doing. And it's like I want my foot to feel good in the ground. I want my sprints to feel good. I want my hands to be pocket chin as I'm running. And if you watch a big league catch play, man, it's a lot of balls thrown right in the chest area. If I'm throwing a slider, I'm trying to get it to my glove side. And if I don't, I'm making the immediate adjustment, or the guy will be like, "Hey, you opened up too early," and everybody's working with you. Like your catch partner knows you as well as you do. They're like, "Hey, that one floated. That one was late. That one was early.
Mhm.
Whatever it is," and it's every single throw, something comes from it. Like
Yeah.
I like halfway through the season this year, my ball started cutting a little more than I liked. And I told my catch partner, and he would let me know anytime it cut, like when it got to him. He's like, "Hey, that one cut." And so then I'm like, "Okay, what did I do there? Let's try this cue." And I throw it. He's like, "That one had good carry on it." And then I try to repeat that over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And it's just I don't feel like I've had a wasted throw or a throw that served me no purpose in like 7 years. And
Yeah.
it's crazy
Yeah.
to even think that and say that, but it's like I played my first day of catch last week, and it's like every throw I was making sure I had my grip right. I was coming set. I was making sure I was calm, relaxed. I take a deep breath, calm myself down, and then it's loose and free throw. Even if I'm throwing 65 miles an hour, it's just I'm gonna every throw that I make from
Yeah.
1 week ago until we get a World Series champion is has intention and a purpose behind it.
Yep. No, I love that. I like the lower intent, nugget you just dropped in there too. I was about to go that direction for some background here, real quick too. I've seen Rob throw a pitch in college, strike out a guy where he went 84 or maybe 86. I don't remember the exact things. I'm gonna say 86 because it's gonna make my end goal here sound better.
Yeah.
86 with a fastball, not a changeup. 86 with a fastball, okay, like 83 with a slider, and then like 96 with another fastball. And first off, just to have the feel to be able to do that is not common. Most people like I certainly like I could do it a little bit, but not to that capacity. I've seen Rob, fluctuate with some of his pitches, and the amount of feel that it takes to do that is tremendous. But I mean, you're kind of practicing it. That's what you're saying there in your catch play. Talk about some of the sub max reps. Okay, sub max reps that you do during the week and how that impacts command and overall trajectory of the command. A quick preface or my personal experience on that is I had a coach tell me one time, like, you got to be able to like crawl before you walk, before you jog, before you run, and that was obviously in context of throwing a baseball. And I love that. I was like, holy cow, like that's a great analogy. If I want to throw 95 down and away and I can't freaking throw 80 down and away to my catch partner, like how am I going to expect myself to like sprint through that when the game's on the line and I got to execute that pitch or whatever? Talk about how some of those sub max reps, because you really got to take advantage of those. And like Rob kind of said it earlier, like you can't go out and catch play, go balls to the wall every single day, expect yourself to be fresh and healthy and sustain success throughout the season. Talk about some of your thoughts and your approach on like your sub max reps, and how you implement those in your weekly routines.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And I know everybody listening to this, and Brett, you know a handful of guys where it's like they can dot the ball at 95 miles an hour, but you roll them a ground ball and they have to throw it to first.
Yeah,
God knows what's going to happen there, right? So to me, it's like it's funny to laugh about that. And I have buddies that we made fun of and like whatever, but the Brewers, we don't really have guys like that because they do help you train very low intent. They're like, okay, like you got to be smooth at all times. And so me at low intent was like, okay, I need to be same speed, same mechanics all the time. And then I learned probably in college or a little bit before college, it's like if I slow everything down and I'm trying to be smooth with everything, it's going to come out normal. So if I'm
Mhm,
trying to throw a 70% pitch, I'm not going to slow my body down to 50%, or I'm not going to try to throw a max effort body and then slow my arm down at the end.
mhm.
I'm just going to get right around that range intent wise. I'm going to be smooth and I'm just going to throw it nice and easy. And
Yeah,
it's just one thing. It's like they're training now the athletic throws, and I hate when people say the athletic throws because every throw you make as a pitcher is athletic.
yeah, amen.
But like the shortstop throw, like feel the backhand, flick the ball a little bit more sidearm, like
Mhm,
shuffle your feet like a quarterback, do a play action pass and throw. You
mhm.
know what I mean? Like be athletic, move around, and do all those things, and you can do those at a low intent, and it helps you find your release.
Yep.
And to me, off-speed pitches, I want to be around 90% no matter what. Like I won't spin a sweeper below about 85, 90%. I won't throw a changeup 85, 90% unless I'm really tinkering with a grip thing. Because those are pitches where it's all about the release at the finish. But a fastball in a regular throw, you can do at 20%, 30%. I remember watching a video of Clayton Kershaw before his starts. He sits there on a wall and he just throws his pitches into a wall sitting on the ground nice and easy at like 20 miles an hour. Just feels the ball coming out of his hand, feels the smoothness. And if you ramp up that way, so you're ramping up your body, you start at 50%, you get it up to 100%, and you just try to match your arm speed with your body, it just trains you to throw at a low intent and all the way up, and you can work up to a high intent. And that's kind of what I've done my whole life, is try to be as athletic as possible when I'm throwing.
Yeah.
Everything is smooth. There's no rigidness. And the big part to me, we can jump to this next, is I try to keep it as simple as possible. There's too many times I'm on the mound and I'm like, okay, if you're at a point where you're like, lift your leg, separate your hands, rotate, finish strong, that's way too many thoughts for a 1-3 to the plate. You know what I mean? That's way
Amen.
too many thoughts
Yep.
for you to have in 1 second. And so my thought is always at the finish. It's like, where can I get my hand? Because my body's going to do its job because I've trained it to do its job.
Yep.
But in catch play, you can have one or two thoughts and be a little slower. You can whatever. But when you're pitching and you're off a mound, it's one thought or zero thoughts, and zero is great. If you're not thinking at all, you're just letting your athletic body take over. It's great.
Yeah.
But in catch play, I try to have one thought and I execute that thought, where it's, hey, on this one, I want to keep a more vertical shin. On this one, I want to really feel like a hip hinge. On this one, I really want to feel the rotation. You can do all those different things in catch play.
Yep. Yeah, no, I love that. That to me is such a lost art, and honestly, like the younger generation, younger players, just in general, especially because we're in such a velocity aware, velocity driven, world in the baseball world. Every single throw is like go go go. A lot of times that I've used that analogy, the crawl before you walk, before you jog, before you run kind of analogy with a lot of people. And to me that's something that every pitcher, to like have elite command, in my personal opinion, got no data to support it. Like, you've got to be able to do that. You've got to be able to feel where your body's at to replicate it at that like high of a level. But the thing where I see like younger pitchers get off the most is that they actually keep the same like body speed or effort, and then they try to like slow their arm down, So your
Yeah.
analogy of like matching with like some smooth athletic movements, matching, and if it's 20%, then it's literally 20% from the time I lift my leg to the time I go to throw it, right? If it's the breaking ball, it's 80%. And matching all of that. I was watching a younger, freshman in college throw just this past week, actually, and I gave him the exact same suggestion. I was like, he was trying to spin some pitches at like a lower effort level, and visually to me, obviously I don't have any video or data to support it, but visually to me it looked like he was picking his leg up like just as fast as he was on his full speed ones, as he was with the slower ones. And I was like, man, like, you're doing that and then you're slowing your arm to try to do that. If you're going to do that, you should actually do it in the opposite fashion, where you keep the hand speed like as fast as you need to do it, and you kill kind of some of the body effort, but I think the way I try to explain it to most people would be that, like, man, if you're going 60% on any pitch, right now, like, it's 60% every single body movement that you have, and really like that feeling your hand out front, some of the biggest like cues for sure that made sense for me, but so let's go into some of the on the mound execution, and translating some of all this prep work into like, game performance. There's a lot of different things I think we could talk about in this, kind of section. Ultimately, like, what you want to create is a routine that helps you kind of lead up. The analogy I give people is like, you watch a hitter in the cage and he goes from, one hand, like short bat, high tee, flips, whatever. Like, you're trying to kind of build a routine that leads you all the way up to this, so that you can get on the mound. There's like zero thought, right? But the reality is, what I have experienced, and what I know a lot of other people experience, is that, like, the games that you have with just like zero thought, those are going to be your best games. And absolutely that would be the goal. But what about the middle games or the lower third games? Like, there's going to be thoughts that creep into your head. So like, steering your brain in a direction of like what are acceptable thoughts and having kind of a game plan for that, I think is extremely important, but that like pre-pitch routine or that mental reset when stuff like doesn't go your way. Maybe start with that a little bit. Like once you get on the mound, Rob, once you get on the mound, talk a little bit about like pre-pitch routine and again, like emphasizing how intentional all of that is. You've already said a lot of it. I know you do it when you get on the mound too. Like foot goes in the exact same place, like on purpose, very intentional. What about even like thoughts leading up to when I put my foot on the mound? Because there's all kinds of thoughts that goes through a pitcher head. What happened on the last pitch? Umpire, bad call, bad play behind you. Guy got a hit on a perfect pitch, right? And then getting into the next pitch, that mentality and what you do within your pre-pitch routine, literally from the time the last play got over to the time that I'm going to throw my next pitch.
Yeah, and that to me, I think is the single-handedly the most important thing you can do is like it sounds easy, but it's very hard as far as like runner on second base. I'm pitching out of the head turn. So I'm staring at him and as I lift, I'm picking up home plate a little bit later. Or, I just got screwed on a 1-1 count and I put it 2-1 when it should be 1-2 or whatever it is. And to me, there's probably 12 to 16 seconds between. Sorry, son is yelling. There's probably 12 to 15 seconds between pitches where you can make an adjustment. But to me, when the ball's coming back to me, so when William Contreras is throwing me the ball back, that's my time to be like, okay, my hand wasn't on time, or oh, I slipped, or my foot landed at the wrong spot, or I gotta dig out the hole. And if that's the case, then use that 8 seconds to think about it. But once I get the ball back, I stare at the ground. I put my foot in the mound. I'm doing it right now, standing up, so I can picture it. But I stare at the mound. I put my foot in. Once my foot is engaged on the rubber, and I put my other foot down and I pick up home plate, I'm waiting for that pitch calm. I'm waiting for that thought. So it's slider. And then once I get that pitch, that's the only thing I'm thinking about is executing the slider. And so I try to execute it, or I don't try. I don't want to try. I just execute it. And if I don't, I have those 7 seconds from when I release the ball to when the ball comes back to me to be like, okay, get the hand out on time or whatever cue I have. I try to have 2 cues for every pitch. So my sweeper, it's throw it to my pocket, or it's get the hand out a little bit earlier. And whichever one it was that I messed up on, I think about that for the 7 seconds. And once I get back on the mound, it's just execution. And if you have 2 thoughts, I'm telling you, dude, that is 1 thought too many or 2 thoughts too many. It's got to be such a free feeling. You got to feel so free out there. And I kind of wish I would have played quarterback in high school because quarterback is very similar to me, where it's like you're looking at the defense, you got your guys running routes, you got to call your audible, you got to move your blockers, you got to do all these little things. But once the ball is snapped, you can only execute. You can only let your body take over. Because if you're thinking about way too many things, like, oh, the rush is coming, oh, the linebacker dropped back, like there's just, you have to process information without overthinking. And
Absolutely.
it's just such a good practice to do it in catch play, where once my foot is set into the ground, I'm looking at the guy's glove where I want to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And I just try to
Go.
physically do it without thinking. Just go. Yeah.
Yep. Hey man, no, I love that. How about let's touch on the sequencing portion of this a little bit. Because there's a lot of like game planning that goes into this too, like there's often times where you're not trying to throw a strike, you know what I mean? And you can still have good command, obviously, with not throwing a strike. There's purposeful balls, whether you're ahead in the count or set up a different pitch that you're ultimately trying to get the guy out on. Talk a little bit about like when's a time that maybe you go for maybe more on the stuff side versus more on the strike side. Obviously the count dictates a lot of it. The hitter's going to dictate a lot of it. And really even like all the way down to like how I'm feeling that day might go into that. If I don't got the juice on the fastball, then I'm probably throwing a cutter in certain scenarios or whatever. But talk a little bit about that, about how you go like within the counts, within the circumstances of the game, more from a game planning standpoint, prioritizing strike and command maybe over more of velocity and movement and maybe how that varies.
I think a lot of the times, especially, earlier in my career with 2 strikes, I'd be like, I'm going to make this the nastiest pitch on the planet. And so many times you're working against yourself. Like, I'm really going to gear up on this heater, and you like flex a little harder. You try to rotate a little bit harder. and the ball comes out either the exact same velo or worse. So now
Usually
I've
over a
learned it's
command
like,
too.
yeah, exactly. And your command's a ton worse. The one thing for me where I try to get nastier is I try to get more aggressive off the plate. So like to me, it's like to get nastier for me, if I throw a top third fastball, a nastier fastball is a fastball just above the zone.
Hmm.
And same with the sweeper. If I throw a down and away sweeper to Kyle Schwarber, instead of like I'm going to make this move 18 inches, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start this one 3 more inches over, and it's going to miss the plate by 3 or 4 inches.
Mhm.
And like that to me is nastier because that's a way harder pitch for him to hit. And
Absolutely.
off the one I threw before, that's a he's going to have to trigger on, or he's at least going to have to think about triggering on it.
Yep.
And to me, that's how I get nastier. If I throw a backdoor cutter and it lands middle away, it's like, what if I just dot this one down and away? He's got no shot.
Mhm.
And it's not try to make the ball move more. It's not try to throw it harder. It's not do anything like that. It's just let's make this way harder for him to hit by locating 3 inches in one direction or the other.
Yeah, that's such a common piece of the conversation for younger players. I certainly did it and got better with it as I got older. I've certainly seen you do that and evolve that way too. The reality is that's kind of the term that pitchers and pitching coaches throw around all the time. Like trust your stuff, right? Like that's such a common phrase that gets thrown around a ton. That's ultimately how you're trusting your stuff. You're not trying to like make this some bigger, nastier pitch because you think that I've got to be bigger and nastier because Kyle Schwarber's in the box. Like, no, man, like you actually got to be a little bit more precise. You got to be a little bit more intentional, like with your pitch, where it's starting, like at its core, for a major league pitcher, you understand the shape and the break and the movement profile they're going to get. And you're able to repeat that. Younger pitchers, that's more of the encouragement first is that like, man, you got to kind of know what your pitch is doing before I can start moving it all around. And we talk about that a lot, but the encouragement then, once the shape and the profile and the velocities and stuff all kind of get somewhat consistent, there's obviously like variances, from pitch to pitch or days to days or whatever, but in the moment when you're going to execute that pitch, the thought is not, oh man, I'm going to make this thing so much bigger and gross and he's going to stand no chance to get it, especially as that like produces more or like extra effort, from pitch to pitch, like you were saying earlier, because most of the time that's going to result in, a backup slider, an arm side miss, or even just like maybe it has like the shape and break and profile, but it's more in like their hot zone or more in it, an area of the zone where it's easier for the hitter to handle. That's kind of how that, mentality evolves, for a pitcher is that, after you've kind of developed that movement profile and that consistency that you're kind of looking for on the shape and the break of your pitch, the put away pitch, if you would ask 17-year-old Brett what a put away pitch was, that was like, man, I'm smelling blood in the water. I'm just going to kill this guy. He stands no chance. It's going to be so nasty. Right. Like, but what you're describing and what upper level pitchers certainly do across the board is trust their stuff. And man, that pitch now that was a strike slider, it really just starts like 3 more inches off. And now it's 3 more inches off the plate as a result of that. And that's a strikeout pitch. And I think people wrapping their head around that. And honestly, like for my personal experience, that's extremely hard. Like being uber competitive, being somebody that like, I'm coming for you and like pitching with more aggression like you do too. Like, you know, it's really hard actually for me to control my emotions in those kind of scenarios. It makes you develop like a much more mature mindset. And I think once you wrap your head around, what actually produces outs and swings and misses, like it at upper levels against better hitters, against whatever, like it's not usually like this big extra effort of like a harder velocity or nastier pitch or whatever. I actually remember a personal experience for me on that was I remember being younger. I can't remember if I was in high school or college or whatever, but watching Adam Wainwright pitch for the Cardinals, and he's got like 200 and something strikeouts like in the major leagues. I'm sitting there watching this game going like, man, he's throwing 91. Like I throw harder than that, and I'm having trouble striking guys out in college. Like, where's the difference in that? Like, and I hadn't had the experience yet to understand, but like, why don't I strike out more guys? Because my stuff's clearly better, and I'm in college, so like something's missing there, right? But the reality is because that dude is he's in that like more mature like frame of mind. He's using his stuff to sequence. Like 91 is plenty to produce swings and misses. As long as all your secondary stuff tunnels really well off of it, obviously, as long as you understand the circumstance and the hitter that's in the box and the game plan that you're trying to execute, and you can execute that game plan. But that to me, it's not to me, truthfully, all the way across the board to everybody. It's it's the command ultimately of those pitches, and that even on those misses for a major league quality, pitcher with more elite command, it's your ability to sequence and tunnel those things and changing speeds and changing areas of the zone that produces those swings and misses. It doesn't got to be 4 miles an hour harder. It's got to be 3 inches. It's got to be this much further when it comes out of your hand this way so that it breaks down and away to the guy. And that's a swing and miss and a strikeout, and fighting the urge to like feel like I've got to do something extra on this pitch, and trust your stuff more, like what we're talking about. Like that's what produces swings and misses. And when you kind of wrap your head around that, then that helps maybe steer you in like what your thought process is, helps you maybe control those, over competitive emotions, like when you're on the mound in that scenario, especially if you got a guy in the box that you're just dying to strike out, because we all got guys like that for sure, but
Yeah.
that's ultimately the frame of mind that's going to be there. So, the hardest part I think about this for every pitcher really, especially in a velocity driven age, especially when, we're being evaluated the way that we are these days as pitchers with movement profiles and that whole scenario I talked about earlier, the 6 pitches versus 6,000 pitches scenario, improving your velocity and also improving your command can be very challenging, right? Like when to do it, how to do it, where to do it, etc. The velocity, the movement, and the command. At the end of the day, there's this like eternal trade-off essentially, right? I've kind of speaking about earlier. The harder you throw, the reality is like the more of a miss you can get away with, right? The nastier the shape and the break of the pitch,
Right.
typically the more you can get away with. But how do you balance, whether it's in the outfield, whether it's in the game, whether it's in your training, how do you balance, the need for producing quality stuff while still being able, to execute? Talk about some of those things for you personally, and how you try to balance that.
Um, Me personally, it was always like you want to be as nasty as possible in the off season. Like you look on your TrackMan and you got a 20-inch sweeper or like a 20 vert fastball. It's like, yeah, that's great. But to me, we kind of talked about it. With pro athletes, they repeat so much. It's like Adam Wainwright's a great example. Adam Wainwright had a -16 vertical break curveball.
Mm-hmm.
He sometimes had 14, sometimes had 18, but it was never anything he was doing. Is just the day. And sometimes it's the air, right? Like you're in Seattle at sea level, the air is a little bit thick. You got 20 horizontal. And a lot of time you're in Colorado, you got 9 and that's all you got. And so that's when I kind of learned it's like all I want to do is find the pitch that works. And to me, it's 14 inches of sweep on my sweeper. 14 works for me. If it's 18, I'm really trying to like over cork it and I have no idea where it's going. And if it's 9, it floats in the zone. But if I can stay around that 14 range, I can command that. I can throw it to both sides of the plate. I can throw it more glove side and it looks exactly like my heater. And so it's really just finding what works for you. And while you were talking, I just had this fun thought with the Brewers bullpen specifically, and every bullpen in the league. Like, when do you say, "Oh, that was a nasty pitch"? Was it when a guy throws 100 down the middle, or is it when a guy dots a 97-mile-an-hour fastball up and in, and the guy gets tied up and he can't even trigger on it?
Yeah.
Like to me, it's velo has never mattered to me. Like I have Aaron Ashby going to the game. He throws 99 from the left side. He throws a front hip sinker at 99. I'm like, dude, that's gross. You can't hit that. He throws a curveball down middle. I'm like, good pitch. And then all the guys in the pen, like when you set somebody up on the mound, you know it, especially when you learn pitch sequencing and you're taught how to like really work hitters. We'll be sitting in the pen, man, and we're like, dude, Aaron Ashby, if he throws a backdoor curveball here, this guy's got no
Done.
shot. And he'll just dot a normal curveball, backdoor to a righty, swing and miss, or frozen strike. And that's when we're like, dude, that's not. So it really is all command, especially at the highest level. Like, no one gets gassed up over a 100-mile-an-hour fastball anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Ryan Helsley comes into the game, he's throwing 103. We're like, oh, that's hard. But when Ryan Helsley dots a slider down and away off a 103-mile-an-hour fastball in,
Yeah,
we're
you
like,
can't hit
yo,
that.
that's gross, dude.
Yeah.
And so really when I'm talking about command, that's when we're really talking about who's gross. Like every time I watched Wainwright throw in person, it was never like, he blew that guy's doors off or that curveball's disgusting, because it's great. The
Mm-hmm.
ones I was like, hey, that's disgusting is when he would set it up perfectly. We would all know it's coming. The hitter would know it's coming and they got no chance because he would execute it perfectly. And
Mm.
that's when it was like, that guy's disgusting.
Yeah. Well, talk a little bit too, like maybe if you could go back and tell 17-year-old Rob something. And to be honest with you, like you were always like a good command pitcher, and your velocity kind of came like a little bit later. You know what I mean? Like as you grew and matured. Talk a little bit about like maybe some of the advice you'd give to 17-year-old Rob on balancing that. Like how to balance that, because obviously like you're in a little bit different of a scenario now, right? Like you've got the stuff it takes to be a major league pitcher. You had to develop that at some point, and then being 33 or whatever, like, I'm not going into this expecting to come out being a guy throwing 97 like every pitch. Like that's just like where you're at in your career. Talk to the people who are in the earlier stages of their career right now that the game maybe is telling them that they need to throw a little bit harder to keep getting the next opportunity. Because I think that's some of what like the younger players struggle with, right? Is that like, well, the game's basically telling me I got to throw harder to keep getting opportunities, but I also know that I got to command and execute pitches. And that is so challenging. How do you think they can help compartmentalize some of those thoughts and be chasing both of them essentially at the same time, which can be challenging?
Yeah, so that's the part to me. I want to coach when I'm done playing because I think I have a wealth of knowledge as far as like baseball goes. It's like I have this master's degree in baseball and I want to keep using it. That is the part to me that trips me up a little bit because it's like I go up to a kid in college. Let's say I start coaching at Boston College here in Boston, and I got this kid who throws 88 to 90 miles an hour and he executes perfectly. He's our Friday night guy. He's fantastic. He gets a call from a pro scout and they're like, hey, if you want to play at the next level, we need that 90 to be 94. Now, all of a sudden, his intent is in a completely different spot, right? He's like, I'm going to make my stuff nastier. I'm going to start throwing the ball a lot harder. And so to me, it's like if I was talking to a younger me, I'd say, number one, invest in Bitcoin. That's a good idea. Go all in. Number two, I would say, I would say pick the time and place. And I thought we did a pretty good job. Like on Friday night pregame, did you ever come up to me and you're like, dude, like, or even after the first thing, like, yo, you're throwing 94 today. You're nasty. Like,
No,
keep throwing
absolutely
94.
not.
You never did.
Yep.
But the next day, after your start on Saturday or whenever it was, you'd be like, dude, I thought you were throwing super hard. Like, it looked like you were getting a little more into your lower half or whatever it is. And for the next 3 or 4 days, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to take that cue that Brett saw or Coach Hobbs saw or whoever saw. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to try to incorporate it to where it feels normal. And I don't feel like I have to try to do it. I'm going to try to make that feel as normal as possible. And I think that's where it goes is like, yeah, absolutely try to gain movement, try to gain velo, try to gain whatever it is.
Yep.
Do it as much as you can in the off season to a annoying amount to where you're like, man, I'm still working on this 6 hours a day. That's all I'm thinking about. Do it during the off season. But during season, there are times, right? It's like we had a guy learn a sweeper mid season. They were just say, hey, dude, try to throw this sweeper. And he was like, well, I'm throwing in the big leagues. I'm a rookie too. How am I going to incorporate this? And they did such a good job. They're like, hey, you have an extra day. So what we're going to do is we're going to have you throw a side the day earlier instead of taking the extra day off. Do all your normal stuff. And then we're going to throw a touch and feel 2 days before your start,
Yep.
15
Back to my
pitches
script.
where we're really going to try to execute that slider. And that's all we care about that day. We don't care about if you execute anything else. We're going to try to get that sweeper in zone. We're going to put a stand-in guy down there. We're going to give you a pitch comm. We're going to put you on the game mound in an empty stadium, and we're going to have you try to simulate game and see if you can do it in a game situation for 10, 12 pitches. And to me, it's like just pick and choose the right time. On start day, you're just whoever you are,
Yep.
whatever
There we
you're
go.
capable of that day. That's all you're doing. Like I don't want anyone being through 5 scoreless. It's a 7-0 ball game and being like, now it's time to throw 97. Like you just do your job and what you're capable of. But on your bullpen day, be like, you know what? Today, I have 6 days till I throw again. So instead of throwing a bullpen on day 2, I'm going to wait an extra day. I'm going to feel a little bit more fresh, and we're really going to get after it day 3. I'm going to really try to throw this. And instead of just throwing it to try to throw harder, try to make it feel as normal as possible. Try to do your exact normal stuff. And if it's coming out harder because of the cue you're trying or the workouts you've been doing, then great. But never try to do it. Never be like, okay, I'm sacrificing a ton of command for this, but I'm going to really like hip shoulder separate even harder than I've been trying to do. And it's, you just got to pick and choose these times. But that's the hard part, right? Is like everybody wants to pitch at the next level. And some people are gifted. Like Trevor McGill throws 100 miles an hour as our closer. I can't throw 100, but Trevor is naturally throwing 100. Like, he's not going into the offseason trying to come back at 103. He's just trying to be himself.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to coach a guy like Trevor. It's like, try to execute your curveball a little bit better here. We're going to throw more glove side. But a guy who's like trying to learn in college or high school, pick and choose your times. And it's like,
Mhm.
give your entire mind and body an hour on your side day to really prep. Like, try to throw med balls before your side, and you've never done that before. Try to throw plyos before your side. You've never done that before,
Yep.
and use your side day. But like, that's where like it's hard to find that line for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that I throw around a lot to guys that definitely resonated with me when I was younger. And you're totally right. I mean, if on game day, and at any point during that game day, you're thinking about, well, I got to throw harder here. Like, you're done. You're toast. You're either going to
No.
not command the ball well, or you're going to be too much over the plate. And I've certainly had games like that. I think we all have, but especially as a younger pitcher. But the idea that I throw around a lot to people is that, like, man, okay, like, especially a younger player, like, you're throwing, if you got to start, like, you're pitching in college or high school or whatever, like, you got to one start every week. Okay. You got one day of the week. Your job is to go out there and hit that mitt as many times as you possibly can. Okay. And then the other 6 days of the week, then let's think about like throwing harder or working for it, right? Like, you're working 6 days a week to, accomplish your goal, whatever that goal is, right? For some people, it's throwing harder. For some people, it's developing a pitch. For some people, it's, more command. That, like, 6 days of the week, you're working on whatever your goal is. And if that's velocity, then, like, cool. Okay. And then that one day of the week, you're going out there and you're hitting the mid as many times as you can. Ultimately, just trusting that all of that work that I did for those 6 days is going to come to fruition on that seventh day. And if there's any other thoughts about, tinkering or whatever, trying to throw with too much effort, in a toxic kind of environment, that's never going to produce success for you, right? So, like, work for 6, pitch for 1, work for 6, pitch for 1. And I think if you can kind of get in that mindset, that's something that, I kind of resonated with when I was younger, that helped me along that journey. Um, and then, even then, maybe expanding off of that, like, different months is kind of what you were saying. Like, different months can be different goals. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in January and you're throwing bullpens in January and there's no hitter in the box, and your specific goal or objective is to gain 2 miles an hour, then, like, yeah, attack those bullpens, attack those days, to improve your velocity. But still, you're kind of like still compartmentalizing. Like, at some point, the switch has got to get flipped, because ultimately the game revolves around strikes and execution from the pitcher. That's kind of where that, work for 6, pitch for 1 kind of comes into. But the calendar month of the year can really dictate that, for guys too. So I think there's a really good episode. I think there's a lot of really good nuggets in here for people, to take away from this, as far as command, how to build that. I think it really starts from a mentality and understanding, like, what elite command looks like and where that comes from, where that comes from on the mound, mental prep and pre-pitch routines and whatnot, where that comes from off the mound, where that comes from in, like, catch play and different things like that. Um, but all of those things ultimately kind of come all together for a pitcher to, improve their command, improve the trajectory of their command. And Rob's point earlier, I think, is the best thing to reiterate, is that, like, this is not something that you should expect to develop, over a month, over 3 months. It's something that you look back over the course of, like, 2 years, and you're like, oh yeah, I can see, where I got better with these things. And learning to look at it from such a higher 30,000-foot view, kind of helps you not be so, like, anxious or stressed over it too. If you're going into it thinking about it like that, you get 2 months in, like, you're not just gonna, get all worked up or the world come crashing down because I had a bad execution game or pen or, whatever. Just understanding, like, where you're at in that trajectory and understanding that, like, the progress of that is not a linear progress. You're going to have, like, peaks and valleys in it, and I think when you look at it within, like, a week, it feels like it's a freaking roller coaster ride. When you zoom out from 6 months, like, you see the roller coaster ride at a slight upturn, and then when you zoom at it out of it, for 2 to 3 years, like, you can see a really obvious, much more linear, like, trajectory of all that. And so that frame of mind, kind of being, how you attack a lot of these things, is definitely the best for long-term success. So, Rob, I really appreciate you joining us, man. Hope everything is going well in Boston. I miss you guys. Wish I got to see you more. But
Yeah.
you're welcome. You're welcome to come through St. Louis anytime. Would love to see you. Would love to cross with you during the season too. But no, any final thoughts you got? As far as like command and some of those things go.
Yeah, when you texted me, I wrote a couple things down in my notes. I'm not going to look it up because I memorized them because I'm very intelligent. Um, there's a couple things in my career where I love what you said about like the zoom out, where you like look and it's on a day to day basis. Yeah, there's going to be waves for sure. You're going to go up and down. Like it happens at the big league level. So if you're sitting there in high school and you're like, I wonder what big leaguers think. I mean, we got Freddie Peralta who finds a cue in a bullpen. He's Cy Young votes and he's like, yo, I just figured this thing out. Like you're still figuring things out until you're done playing. And then when you're done playing, you'll figure things out about what you should have done while you were playing. Like it's just, you're always figuring things out. And that's why this game is so beautiful. But a couple tidbits that have helped me through my career, like very vivid memories of things that have happened is I had a guy tell me one day I was pitching on a backfield my first year in Chicago. So I was in like low A or whatever. I think he had like a month in the big leagues. Like I think he went to Korea for like 6 or 7 years, like very good career for him, but a lefty who threw like 88 miles an hour. And I threw this game. I think I went 5 shutout or 4 shutout. I was feeling pretty good about myself. And he came in and he's much older and he's like, how'd you feel? I was like, great. And he's like, can I tell you something without you getting mad? And I was like, sure. And he goes, you need to stop with the on mound like antics stuff. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, dude, you had an 0-2 fastball up to a guy and you threw it like 5 balls above the zone and you like pounded your glove and kicked the dirt. I was like, yeah, I was trying to go like up. And he was like, yeah, man, I know. He's like, your catcher knows. He's like, you know who doesn't know? The hitter. He's like, yo, you just let him know you missed your spot.
Yeah.
And he's like, never let the hitter know you missed the spot. And so I took that and like I do it as much as I can now. Like if I back up a slider away from a righty and I'm trying to go down and in, I just nod my head and I get the ball back because I know my adjustment. But now he's thinking, he's like, man, he's really attacking me away here.
Yeah, did he try to do that?
Like, yeah, why is he trying to throw me a backdoor slider? He never throws those. And then all of a sudden he's in his head thinking about it. But if I kick the ground, I'm like, dang it. He's like, okay, he wasn't trying to go there. And then he's still along his plan. So that was a huge piece of information for me was use every pitch you throw, man. And don't let anyone know if you messed up. If you throw a fastball in the dirt, nod your head, get the ball back. And then the hitter's like, okay, I guess he's trying to attack me down.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden the top is wide open. Or you throw one and you almost hit the guy. Don't apologize. Then he's like, dude, this guy's a psycho. He just tried to drill me. And that's all he's thinking about.
Yeah.
And then you got a down and away heater wide open. And so that was one thing I wanted to say as far as command goes is like, use every pitch you throw. There's no reason to let anyone know you wasted one at all.
Yeah. No,
and the other thing is you're going to fail so much as a pitcher. You might throw a scoreless inning and fail 7 times. You know what I mean? Like you hang 2 sliders, you walk a guy, whatever it is. It's just taking the small things from a great outing and taking the small things that you need to do from a bad outing. And it doesn't matter because like you said, you zoom out, you take it and you're always headed in this direction.
Yeah.
And that's until you're done playing. Like I feel like I've been trying to do this my whole career and I'm 33 years old. I know exactly what I want to do. I know how I want to do it, but I feel like I'm learning every single day and I feel like I'm growing from small little things every single day. And that was to me where I talked to a hitter in spring training and he was telling me about Miguel Cabrera. It's the greatest thing in the world. He said Miguel Cabrera, when he played with him, flew out, it was like July 25th and he flew out to right field on a 2-0 count. And he came in, he threw his bat and he threw his helmet down and he was shaking his head and he was all pissed off or he was all mad. I don't know if I can cuss on here, but he was super upset. And so the guy walked up to him. He's like, dude, you were winning the Triple Crown. Why are you so upset? He's like, I gave that at bat away. And that's the first at bat I gave up the whole season. And just thinking about that as like, if you just do your process every day, you lose, you win. Miguel Cabrera got out 70% of the time that year. And he wasn't mad when he struck out. He wasn't mad when he grounded out. But when he mentally gave away something, and I do it all the time, man. I have a perfect example. I have a Machado homer in a 0-0 game in the 7th that haunts me. And not because I gave up a homer, not because we lost the game, nothing. It was because on a 3-2 count, my only thought was don't walk the leadoff guy. Yeah. And I was thinking, don't walk the leadoff guy. The leadoff guy, if he walks, he scores 40% of the time or whatever the stat is. And I released this fastball down and in, and he hits a homer on it. And I remember thinking I was not convicted in that pitch at all. Yeah. All I was thinking about was throwing this fastball over the plate. And I was essentially playing defense when I'm on offense. Like you're a pitcher, your team's playing defense behind you, you're on offense. You're attacking every single pitch as hard as you can. And those are the ones that haunt me the most. It's like I gave away a pitch and it cost me a homer. And I gave away 30 pitches this year and I gave up one homer on it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Yeah.
that was the one where like I let the negative thoughts creep in. I let outside stuff dictate what I was doing on the mound. And so if you're a pitcher in high school and like there's a really, really pretty cheerleader in the stands and you're letting that affect you when you're on the mound, it's like you're going to be more mad about that than any homer you give up when you're fully convicted. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that I wanted to leave here with is like if you're a pitcher, just be convicted in everything you're doing. Never take the mound and be like, okay, well, I'm trying this, I'm working on this, I'm really thinking about my head posture. Like, just be 100% convicted in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then when the result is over with, it's over with. And having a son, as much as he's yelling at me right now, has been super helpful because once I leave the field, I'm just dad again.
Yep. Amen.
And it's like, I'm super convicted when I'm at the field. Every single thing I do when I'm at the field, there's a purpose. And then once the day is over, that was the day. Attack it again tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's some great wisdom. Hopefully, there's a couple tidbits, throughout this episode that other players, coaches, younger players, maybe even parents of players can take away. Appreciate the insights. If you guys like this, definitely drop us a comment down there if you got any thoughts or questions. Future episodes. Honestly, I think I can already think of a couple future episodes to spin off of this. We've talked a little bit before about kind of commanding the baseball, executing your pitch under pressure, how this spins off into like pitch design and sequencing, but then even like maybe how to re-improve or going back to kind of the command conversation after like injuries and rehab, because that's a whole nother complexity to all of this. But a lot of different things we can kind of spin off and talk about. So have to have you back on. Thank you, Rob, for coming on again. Hope everything is going well. You guys have great holidays and don't get too cold up there in Boston.
Yeah.
Hope the training and everything goes well the rest of the offseason, man. But we'll catch up with you soon. Thank you guys for checking out this episode, and we'll see you guys next time.